Eleanor and Sabine, what incredible Divrei Torah. Creative, thoughtful, thought-provoking, and an exploration of evil and an exploration of Torah and how we as modern Jews relate to it in the line of people who have adapted and changed it throughout time. It's the 70-something options of mitzvot that you could focus on in your parsha. You both chose to talk about the wayward and defiant son and our child. And this is a favorite case for the reasons you both noted, which is that the punishment of the Torah is so extreme for something that seems relatively minor to us, and the rabbinic response to it is so creative. It's an excellent teaching example. Because what you see is the rabbis, as you said, Eleanor, basically overturning the Torah without admitting that they're overturning the Torah. They inherit a law that they cannot abide, and they make it impossible to enact. And Sabine, as you taught us, this effort they're making is related to a larger project of trying to understand evil and how to correct for it. And Eleanor, as you so theatrically demonstrated, many generations of rabbis have interpreted and reinterpreted and adopted and adapted the laws of our ancestors to meet their conscience and their best understanding of their time. In your look at the wayward and defiant child, together you raise two questions that are highly relevant to our moment in the Jewish calendar. In less than 3 weeks, in this sanctuary, all the pews will be filled for the holiest day of the year. And this month, that is called Elul, is meant to be entirely occupied with preparation. Not just the kind of preparation that our staff are engaged in around processing ticket orders and preparing the facility and writing the sermons, but the kind of preparation that is incumbent upon every Jew, and particularly every Jewish adult, which you two have become today. So given that this is now your responsibility as well as ours, and the responsibility of every Jew to some degree in this sanctuary, let me explain what's expected of you. Here are the two big ideas that you taught us this morning. Number one, all humans are capable of evils, big and small. Number two, just like the Torah can change, all humans can change. Judaism is less concerned with the idea that there are certain people who are evil, and more with the idea that the impulse toward evil runs through the heart of every living person, exactly as much as the impulse toward good. In Hebrew, the impulse or inclination toward evil is called Yetzer Hara. And there's something else that's important to know. Even though you have an impulse toward evil, your soul is not ever evil. Your soul, neshama in Hebrew, is inherently pure. And the rabbis are clear that we all need Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. We need it in small doses. For example, human desire, greed, lust leads us to build houses and create a food supply and have children. The Yetzer Hara is a natural and necessary part of us. And then, but for everyone, there are moments every day when it is out of balance. Moments every day when Yetzer Hara gets the better of us and we make choices that aren't our best choices. And then we put someone down to try to be better than them, or we lie, or we take too much for ourselves, or we don't share what we have with those in need. But equally, humans all have Yetzer Hatov, the impulse toward good, the feeling of compassion and the will to act upon it with love and kindness, the desire to tell the truth even when it's difficult, the impulse toward fairness, toward justice. So we all have both of these forces in us. And the rabbis advise us to think of ourselves as exactly 50-50. To imagine that if we tallied all of our acts from the last year, 50% would be on the side of tov, good, and 50% would be on the side of ra, or evil. Because remember that some of our impact is not even known by us. Think about our impact on the earth or the global population simply because we live in a first world country and are using resources and emitting waste in disproportionate ways. We also have ripple effects on the people around us that we are often oblivious to. So since we can never really know the tally of our acts on the world, we imagine that it's 50-50 and that every next act we take, starting this second, has the potential to tip the balance of our lives. And the Jewish project, the goal of Jewish life, is to live in such a way that we are continually tipping the balance toward the good, leaping at opportunities to, as we say colloquially, do a mitzvah. We also know that even with that intent, we're far from perfect. We make mistakes, and we fall short all the time. We get into conflict with people we love and people we don't love. We fail to live up to the ideal image we have in our minds of who we want to be. So Jewish tradition in its wisdom includes a prayer every single day for us to repent for the things that we did wrong. Any and every little thing, which means we would name them and we would say we're sorry and we'd ask for forgiveness and we'd forgive ourselves. But guess what? A lot of people don't do that every day. It's hard to admit when we were wrong. It's hard to say we're sorry. It's hard to ask for forgiveness. And maybe hardest of all, to forgive ourselves. And so we put it off. We tell ourselves, oh, why make a bigger deal out of it? It wasn't such a big deal. Let's move on. But these things add up, and they weigh on us. And when we have a quiet moment, they come back to us, into our conscience. So in its even greater wisdom, Judaism set aside 10 days in the year that are just focused on repentance, just focused on teshuvah. And then an entire month leading to those 10 days to help us get ready. In this month, the Jewish tradition is inviting you to do something really good. It actually feels great when you do it. To take some quiet time, ideally an hour a day, just to reflect on the last year of your life. You can go through your calendar to remember what happened in this last year. And to ask yourself, are there things from this year? Are there moments? Are there interactions? Are there things I did? Are there things I didn't do that are bothering me? That rise to the surface as unresolved, as embarrassing, as me behaving in a way that I am not totally proud of, or some way that I let someone down or let myself down. Could be tiny things, could be massive things, could be anything in between. But if it is still somewhere there in your consciousness, it needs to be addressed. And you get a whole month to reflect and take responsibility. And here's what our rabbis recommend. You make a list. Every evening you take some time alone and you make a list. This is known in Hebrew as cheshbon hanefesh, the accounting of the soul. You do this with honesty and an attempt at clear judgment, and also with an immense amount of compassion. It is definitely not meant to be harsh. It is not supposed to feel like beating up on yourself. There's actually a verse in our Parsha, there's a few verses, but there's one I'm going to point out that talks about punishing a person. I think one of you mentioned it, punishing a person with corporal punishment. But this verse, Deuteronomy 25:3, talks about not punishing someone too harshly for something they did wrong. The Torah says that a person found guilty by a court is supposed to receive at most 40 lashes and no more. Sounds pretty harsh to me, but not 100 lashes, not forever. Why? Lest they, quote, be degraded in your eyes. Now, last night, Rabbi Green spoke about this in relation to forgiveness, that we don't want to hold a grudge against a person so much that we degrade them in our eyes. But I also think this can be understood in relationship to self-punishment. When we do something wrong and realize it was wrong, we have a tendency to beat ourselves up. I think that's true for a lot of us. But the danger, if it's done to excess, is that we degrade ourselves in our own eyes. And this is actually counterproductive. Our rabbis understood that in order to change, we have to feel loved and we have to feel worthy. And so gentleness is really key if we really want to change, which is what this time is all about. So once you've got your list of wrongdoings and mistakes, the first step is charata, according to Maimonides. You have to understand the hurtful impact and truly experience regret. The second step is azivat hachet, immediately stopping whatever hurtful action you've been doing. The third step, according to Rambam, is vidui, acknowledging what we've done out loud and asking for forgiveness. And where possible, this includes engaging in concrete repair. Is there a person you can pick up the phone and call and say, I'm sorry? Is there some kind of material repair that's possible? Is there anything you could do to make it better, to fix it? And the fourth and final step is Kabbalah lehaba'ah, committing to never repeat the destructive behavior in the future. You do these 4 steps for each thing that you find that's on your list. And with each one, you want to hold yourself in so much compassion, remembering how hard you have tried, remembering that you deserve the benefit of the doubt as much as anyone else, and still seeing yourself with the clearest possible judgment. All of this makes it possible to show up here on Rosh Hashanah in 3 weeks, having done the work of repairing your soul, of tending to your inner life, of taking your own moral compass seriously, of honoring your sense of yourself, of who you know you are meant to be. And I want to recommend to you, if you're thinking, I want to do this month, this book is a book you should have. I just gave a copy to every person on our board of trustees. It's an excellent book. It's by Rabbi Alan Liu. And people who know Jewish life well, everybody loves this book. It's called This Is Real, and You Are Completely Unprepared. If you're interested afterwards, it'll be right here. You can take a picture of the cover and order it. This is how we as a people handle evil. We acknowledge it's in all of us, and we make it our responsibility to temper it in ourselves. This is also how Judaism facilitates change. The underlying idea of the holiest days of the Jewish year is that every single person is capable of change, is expected to contemplate how they ought to change, is to turn themselves toward the changes they seek, and then to commit. And if you think about it, it's incredibly hopeful. Judaism believes in your ability to become the human being you want to become. God believes in your ability to change, or else these rituals would make no sense. It's like God can see the highest and best version of you and absolutely believes that you can be that person more consistently every single year by gradually adjusting and rebalancing and tending to your excesses and your shortcomings. So yes, Sabine, for Judaism, evil is real and is our responsibility. And yes, Eleanor, Judaism is always in motion. The Torah is always changing, just as we always have the potential to become more and more and more who we are meant to be. May this be a meaningful and a productive Elul. Shabbat Shalom.